would like to complete your ensemble.
Oh, no. There's something else of yours that I want.
Oh, really? What's that?
Your ass!
There are movies that entertain you, and then there are movies that haunt you. The kind you keep coming back to years later, wondering if you missed something the first time around. The Cannonball Run is exactly that kind of film. On the surface, it looks like a breezy, star-packed comedy about a bunch of lunatics racing across America in ridiculous vehicles. And yes, it absolutely is that. But underneath all the laughs, the squealing tires, and Dom DeLuise's infectious giggling, there's a story most fans have never fully explored. A story about real illegal races, tragic accidents, accidental genius, drunk actors, and a Hollywood machine that stumbled into something genuinely magical. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on everything you probably missed about one of the wildest films ever made. Buckle up, because this ride is just getting started. Before we talk about anything that happened on screen, we need to talk about what happened long before a single camera rolled. The Cannonball Run wasn't dreamed up in some Hollywood boardroom. It wasn't the product of a screenplay that spent years in development. It was ripped straight from reality, from an actual illegal cross-country race that shook the underground automotive world to its core. In 1971, a man named Brock Yates, who wrote for Car and Driver magazine, had grown increasingly furious with the federal government's push to impose strict national speed limits across American highways. To Yates, this wasn't just about driving fast. It was a matter of principle, a direct assault on personal freedom and the culture of the open road that Americans had cherished for generations. Rather than simply write another editorial, Yates decided to do something far more dramatic. He partnered with legendary racing driver Dan Gurney, and together they launched a coast-to-coast run from New York to California, driving as fast as their vehicle would carry them, with no official sanction, no permission, and absolutely no concern for whatever speed limit signs they happened to blow past. They completed the run in under 36 hours. Word spread through the automotive community like wildfire. What had begun as a single act of vehicular rebellion quickly evolved into a recurring underground event, with more drivers joining each subsequent year. Teams showed up with exotic sports cars, modified muscle cars, and increasingly creative disguises designed to slip past highway patrol officers. One team famously used a fully operational ambulance, complete with sirens, flashing lights, fake medical credentials, and a crew dressed in medical uniforms. They convinced actual police officers on multiple occasions that they were responding to genuine emergencies. It was audacious, it was illegal, and it was absolutely brilliant. These races had no governing body, no safety marshal, and no rulebook beyond one simple unspoken challenge: get there first, whatever it takes. The spirit of those real runs, that raw cocktail of speed and rebellion and pure American stubbornness, is the beating heart inside the movie that millions of people think they already understand completely. Here's something that most people who've watched the Cannonball Run multiple times have simply never registered. The man who invented the real race actually appears in the film. Brock Yates himself shows up on screen, playing one of the race officials. It's a background role, small enough that you'd walk right past it without a second glance. But when you understand who he actually is, that small appearance takes on an entirely different weight. Yates wasn't acting in any traditional sense. He was playing a version of himself, the architect of the whole mad enterprise, standing at the edges of his own creation, watching fictional versions of the chaos he once unleashed on real American highways. He had created the Cannonball Baker C to Shining Sea Memorial Trophy Dash, to use its gloriously unwieldy full name, because he believed that skilled drivers deserve the freedom of the open road. He had put his own body and reputation on the line to prove that point. And years later, when Hollywood came calling to turn the legend into entertainment, Yates didn't just consult from a distance. He walked right onto the set and planted himself in the frame. That's the kind of confidence you develop when you've already done the real thing. That beat-up Dodge ambulance that Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise pilot through the film wasn't just a clever visual gag thought up by a prop department. It was a genuine artifact of the real Cannonball races. Brock Yates and director Hal Needham had actually entered the 1979 Cannonball race using that exact vehicle. Their strategy was simple and spectacularly committed. Dress the vehicle as a working ambulance, hire someone to play a doctor, put a fake patient in the back, and bank on the assumption that no police officer would pull over what appeared to be an active medical emergency response. The plan worked more often than not, but the 1979 run wasn't without its drama. Near Palm Springs, the ambulance overheated dramatically in the desert sun and caught fire, nearly ending their run entirely and nearly ending several careers in a considerably more permanent way. The team pushed through and completed the run despite the mechanical disaster, but the vehicle bore the scars of that journey. When Needham began production on the movie version, rather than source a clean, identical replacement, he brought the actual ambulance back. The same one with the same history, the same battle wounds from that desert fire, rolling across movie locations as a prop that had already earned its stripes on the real roads. Every scratch on that vehicle was authentic. Every dent told a story that had nothing to do with Hollywood. It's one of Hollywood's great ironies that Burt Reynolds, the man whose face became synonymous with the Cannonball Run, never wanted to be there in the first place. Reynolds, who by the early 1980s was one of the biggest box office draws in the world, took the role entirely out of loyalty to Hal Needham. The two men had worked together previously on Smokey and the Bandit and had developed the kind of deep professional friendship that makes people agree to things they'd otherwise decline. When Needham pitched him the concept of a wild road race comedy packed with celebrity cameos and improvised chaos, Reynolds said yes without reading a single page of the script. His regret arrived almost immediately once filming began. Reynolds felt the material was too lightweight, too scattered, and too reliant on the star power of its ensemble cast rather than any genuine comedic structure. He later reflected in interviews that he considered it one of the weaker creative decisions of his career, a film made for paychecks and friendship rather than artistic ambition. What makes this story fascinating, however, is what happened next. Audiences completely disagreed with him. The Cannonball Run was a massive commercial success, earning over $72 million at the domestic box office and cementing Reynolds' image as the coolest, most effortlessly charming presence in American cinema. The role he resented helped define him for an entire generation of fans. Sometimes the things we're most embarrassed about are exactly what other people love most about us. While Reynolds at least knew he was making a light-hearted film, Farrah Fawcett arrived on set with an entirely different understanding of what she'd signed up for. Fawcett had read the script, or the fragments of it that existed at that point, and concluded that she was joining a dramatic action romance road picture. She prepared accordingly, approaching her character with the kind of grounded sincerity she brought to more serious work. Then she arrived on set and found Dean Martin dressed as a priest, visibly and enthusiastically enjoying a drink before the cameras started rolling. Then she found Sammy Davis Jr., also dressed as a priest, improvising jokes between every single take. The tone around her was unmistakably, irreversibly comedic, but no one explicitly told her that the movie she thought she was making was actually a broad ensemble comedy. She persisted through filming with her original dramatic interpretation largely intact. The truth only became unavoidable at the film's premiere. Sitting in the theater watching the finished product for the very first time, surrounded by an audience roaring with laughter at scenes she had played completely straight, Fawcett finally understood what she had been part of. The remarkable accident here is that her sincere, unironic performance actually made the comedy around her land harder. Her earnestness was the perfect foil for the chaos erupting around her in every frame. She accidentally gave the movie something it desperately needed: a straight face in the middle of a room full of clowns. The role that Sammy Davis Jr. eventually played alongside Dean Martin was never written for him. That part had been promised to Don Rickles, the legendary comedian whose sharp insult-based humor would have given the film a completely different energy. When Rickles withdrew from the project at the last minute, the production found itself scrambling for a replacement who could bring genuine comedic firepower, natural chemistry, and the kind of effortless star presence that you simply cannot manufacture on short notice. Davis stepped in with almost no preparation time, reviewed what little material existed, and then proceeded to outshine virtually everyone else in the film. His scenes with Dean Martin crackle with the kind of natural chemistry that comes from decades of real friendship. The two men had been part of the same social world for so long that performing together required almost no rehearsal at all. They simply talked to each other the way they always had, and the cameras caught something genuine. Davis's quick wit and charismatic ease made scenes that might have been forgettable into some of the film's most celebrated moments. What the production lost when Rickles departed was significant. What it gained when Davis walked in was better. The scenes featuring Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. dressed as priests remain among the most joyfully unhinged sequences in the entire film. And the reason they work as well as they do is deceptively simple. The drinks in their hands weren't props. Martin and Davis were genuinely drinking during filming, carrying on a tradition that Martin in particular had maintained across decades of performance. Director Hal Needham, a former stuntman who had always operated on instinct more than convention, recognized what was happening and made a conscious choice not to intervene. He let them run. Almost nothing their characters say in those scenes was written in advance. The slurred observations, the theological tangents, the sudden bursts of song, all of it emerged from two old friends in costumes enjoying themselves in front of the camera. Needham kept the cameras rolling through the laughter, through the stumbled lines, through the moments where the actors clearly had no idea what came next. The result is footage that feels startlingly alive, the way things feel when they're actually happening rather than being